My name is Eleanor Hart. I am 72 years old, a retired school nurse who stitched playground knees, taught half a town to breathe through panic, and held more hands than I can count. And for the past 6 months I have lived in my son Michael's guest room where my daughter-in-law Olivia tells me, often, that I am a burden. Tonight, in a house lit by rented candles and pride, she said it loud enough for the chandelier to flinch. "You are a burden, Eleanor," she hissed, right before the room chose its moment to turn on her. And that is when her little girl, my granddaughter Lily, stopped breathing. You'll want to know what I did next, won't you? It happened between the toast and the cutlery ringing the glasses. Lily's giggle snagged on a grape that was far too round and far too fast, and her eyes went wide like jam lids nobody could twist open, and the sound I have heard my entire working life came back. Not a cough, not a cry, a silent scream from a small body that forgot how to be a body. I saw her hands fly to her throat, the universal sign people forget until they need it most, and the room froze as if fear had pulled the plug. I moved before the fear learned my name again. I was behind her chair in 2 strides, my fingers finding the soft notch above her belly, my stance steady, 1 foot between hers, 1 behind, my weight low, my hands the metronome of survival. "I've got you," I told her, though she could not hear me through the tunnel of panic. Up, in, compressions with intention, not force, never aimless, just enough to make a stubborn grape reconsider its home. On the second thrust, nothing. On the third, a squeak. On the fourth, the room exhaled for me. On the fifth, a slick purple insult shot from her mouth and pinged the china like a bell waking a chapel. And only then did someone remember to breathe. Olivia fell first. She didn't faint, she folded, her knees meeting the wooden floor with a thud that sent silverware to the edge of plates, her hands trembling toward Lily's cheeks, her mouth forming my name like it was a prayer she had mocked last Sunday. "Eleanor," she cried, a single tear daring to cut a clean line through a face powdered for photographs. "Mom." But apologies are stubborn things. They don't leap out on command. You can see them building a ladder while the house burns. Michael's chair scraped back, the sound of a son who remembered in one crash that I am not just the woman who asks if anyone has seen her reading glasses. I am the woman who kept the school clinic running when both the principal and the plumbing broke on the same day. He went to Lily, who was crying and alive and furious with the grape as if she could fight it twice. "It's okay," I whispered into her hair that smelled like apples and crayons. "It's okay, darling." My hands were steady, but the floor under me rippled with the memories of every child I hadn't saved and every parent who looked at me the way Olivia was looking now. The room remembered how to be loud again. Chairs staggered. A centerpiece of white roses leaned as if even flowers bow to air. Someone clapped and then stopped because this wasn't a performance. Someone else began to pray because sometimes gratitude trips first over old habits. The chandelier didn't flinch this time. It steadied, as if proud of the moment light did what it was born to do. I could feel the old ache in my knees, the one the orthopedic doctor calls a life well spent, asking for a chair. But I stayed standing because dignity is a ladder too, and it takes time to climb down without splinters. Olivia crawled close, her breath hiccuping, the diamond on her left hand cutting lightning into the floorboards. "I didn't mean it," she said, but we both knew she had. Words spoken from the balcony of contempt don't fall by accident. They are thrown. "You're not a burden." Look at me, please. Look. It is a hard thing to meet someone's eyes when they are building a bridge out of late regret, plank by plank, over water they set on fire themselves. Lily burrowed into Michael's chest now, soothed by the rhythm of a father trying to be rock and river at once. Guests pretended to collect napkins and opinions, embarrassed by how quickly a celebration becomes an exam no one studied for. In the corner, the cake waited with too many candles for a child who had just borrowed from tomorrow. I put my hand on the table's edge and felt the tremor I always hide from the grandchildren, the one that says I am older than the paint on the walls and the worry in my son's hair. But tonight, tremor or not, I had been exactly old enough. You might think the story ends with a cheer and a promise to do better, the simple redemption people paste over a complicated mess. But houses remember, and so do the quiet cameras you forget you installed when you were feeling both vulnerable and prudent. Because this was not the first time burden had been rolled around like a candy in this kitchen. And it was not the first time I had swallowed the bitter to keep the peace sweet. You can forgive often, but forgiveness is not a doormat. It is a door that opens and closes for a reason. When I left my own small rented apartment after a fall last winter, I brought 2 suitcases and 1 envelope. The suitcases held clothes and old photographs that smell like summers we can't afford twice. The envelope held documents, boring as Olivia once laughed, the kind with stamps and words like transfer and trust and medical directive. Nursing taught me that planning is not pessimism. It is kindness with a paperclip. I had planned because women like me always do, even when nobody notices until they have to. Michael did not know about the envelope. He is a good man, but he has the curse of many good men. He trusts that the future will figure itself out because the past has always loved him. He believed the house he and Olivia live in was theirs in every way that matters. Perhaps he would be right now, in a story with a softer spine. But pride is a lousy mortgage broker, and kindness is a fierce accountant. Years ago, when they were starting out with a new baby and a salary that whispered instead of sang, I sold my little lake cabin, my only luxury, to help them make a down payment that could breathe. I told them it was a gift. I did not tell them the deed had a quiet rider, my name in a trust, tucked behind theirs like a grandmother's hand ready to steady a toddler on the first step. Insurance against storms neither of them could imagine or chose to. I did not come to this dinner to reveal anything. I came to watch candles and eat chicken I knew would be overcooked because Olivia mistrusts the color done. I came to clap for Lily's school award and to pretend I don't see the way Olivia rearranges the spoons after I set them down. But when the word burden was hurled like a plate, and when a grape tried to steal my granddaughter, something reassembled in me. Not anger, not revenge. A kind of bone-deep decision, the sort that sits you up straight and says, now. Now is not later. So while Michael rocked Lily and the room put itself back together with a glue of murmurs, I reached into my old cardigan and felt the corner of the envelope as familiar as prayer. I have something to show you, I said softly, not to shame, not to boast, but to begin. Olivia's eyes flashed with a cocktail of fear and defiance, the drink of those who know their houses of words have termites. Can it wait? She asked, mascara smudging into a confession she hadn't approved. No, I said. It cannot, and that is a mercy for all of us. I slid the envelope onto the tablecloth stained with glitter and grapeskin, an altar made by accident. The guests went quiet, as people do when paper enters a room like a witness. I opened it and drew out the copy of the trust, the letter from my attorney, plain language because I asked for it that way, and a small flash drive that looks like nothing until it doesn't. Olivia stared as if she could undo the seals with willpower, as if willpower had ever been a screwdriver that fits every screw. Before I could speak, the front door opened with the politest click I have ever heard a door make, and 2 people stepped into the light. My attorney, Ms. Jacobs, gray suit, hair like iron, and Mrs. Patel from next door, who has sat at my kitchen table more times than any of my son's in-laws, carrying a small tablet that knows more gossip than a neighborhood app. I had asked them to come at 7:30, not because I expected drama, but because I have learned to schedule honesty before dessert. The room shifted from party to courtroom in a single collective breath. Olivia's lips parted, her hands hovering over the table like birds that don't know where to land. What is this? She demanded, but it came out thinner than she meant, a ribbon instead of rope. I did not answer yet. I looked at Lily, whose cheeks were still blotched from survival, and I thought about all the mothers I had held while machines beeped their private language. Then I thought about the word burden, and how we confuse weight with worth. And then I looked back at my daughter-in-law, who had fallen to her knees when she saw me lift a child back into breath, and I said the first sentence that would change everything. This house, I began, voice even, remembers who paid for its bones. And as Ms. Jacobs placed the trust on the table and Mrs. Patel tapped the tablet screen that held a month of kitchen camera audio Olivia forgot to be kind in front of, the doorbell rang again, because the night wasn't done with us yet, and neither was I. The silence that followed my words was louder than any thunder I had ever known. Olivia's face went pale as she glanced at the stack of documents on the table. Her manicured fingers twitched as if she wanted to grab them, shred them, erase them from existence, but she didn't dare. Michael, on the other hand, looked completely bewildered. His brows furrowed. His eyes darted between me, his wife, and Ms. Jacobs, who stood calmly as if she had witnessed countless storms like this before. "Mom, what are you saying?" Michael finally asked, his voice shaky, torn between loyalty to his wife and disbelief at what he was hearing. I took a deep breath. "I'm saying, Michael, that this house, the very roof over your head, has never belonged only to you and Olivia. My name has been on the trust all along. I sold my cabin years ago to help you both start this life. I gave, without conditions, without announcements, because that's what mothers do. But I also secured myself a place here. A safeguard. Not because I didn't trust you, but because I've lived long enough to know that trust without protection is just hope, and hope alone doesn't keep you safe." Gasps fluttered around the room like startled birds. Guests who had once been mere onlookers now leaned forward, eager for every word. The family's private wound had become a public revelation. Olivia's lips parted, her eyes wide with disbelief and fury. You're lying," she stammered, her voice cracking. "You can't possibly." But Ms. Jacobs calmly slid the document across the table. "Mrs. Hart is not lying. The trust is legally binding. This home cannot be sold, mortgaged, or transferred without her consent. In fact, should she choose to enforce her rights, she could very well evict anyone here who treats her as less than family." The weight of those words landed like an earthquake. Olivia's hands trembled. She turned to Michael, desperate. "Tell me this isn't true. Michael, tell me you knew about this, that this is some kind of mistake." Michael's face drained of color. I didn't know. Mom, why didn't you tell me?" I looked at him with tired but steady eyes. "Because, son, you didn't need to know then. You had a young family. You needed freedom, not more burdens. And I trusted you to love me without the shadow of obligation hanging over your head. But when I am called a burden, when the very life I saved tonight is nearly taken by a fruit too small to fight back, I realize silence has its cost. And tonight that silence ends." Olivia's tears spilled now, streaking down her powdered cheeks. She fell lower to the ground, her pride crumbling with every breath. "Eleanor, please. I didn't mean it. I was tired, I was angry. Her voice broke completely. I never thought you'd hold this power over us." Her words echoed, and I saw the hypocrisy tangled within them. She never thought I would have the power, but she had no issue holding her cruelty like a whip over me. That is the way of people who take kindness for weakness, until the truth arrives dressed as justice. Lily stirred in Michael's arms, her small voice piercing the silence. "Grandma saved me," she whispered, still shaky. "Mommy, why are you crying? Grandma's a hero." The innocence of that voice sliced through the room sharper than any document ever could. Eyes turned to Olivia, and I could see the shame wash over her. In that moment, her daughter's truth was more damning than my attorney's words. But this was not just about a house. This was about dignity. About the years I had given freely, the sacrifices buried quietly, the love that had never asked for repayment, until cruelty made repayment the only language left. I stood taller, though my knees begged for rest. "This is not revenge, Olivia. It is a reminder. You called me a burden. But tonight, you saw that what you dismiss as weak can save your child's life. And what you thought powerless can hold the very walls around you." Olivia's sobs filled the hall. She reached out as if to grasp my hand, but I didn't move. My hands remained on the envelope, steady, unshaken. I had carried heavier than this. And just as Michael opened his mouth to speak, to perhaps defend, perhaps apologize, the front door creaked open once again. The room turned. And standing there, unexpected, uninvited, was someone none of us had anticipated. Someone who held even more truth than I did. Someone whose presence would make Olivia's knees buckle for good. The entire room froze. I locked eyes with the figure in the doorway, and for the first time that night, even I felt my heart skip. Who was it that walked in? And why did Olivia's face drain of every drop of color the moment she recognized them? The figure stepped inside, closing the door gently behind him, as though the storm within the house had summoned him. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a kind of quiet authority that needed no announcement. His gray suit hung perfectly on him, his shoes polished to a mirror shine, and his eyes, sharp, unblinking, swept across the room until they landed squarely on Olivia. Olivia's hands flew to her mouth. Her tears dried in an instant, replaced by raw, naked fear. She whispered his name, her voice trembling. "Richard." Michael stiffened. "Wait, Richard. As in Olivia, who is this?" The man's jaw tightened. "Richard Monroe." He introduced himself curtly. His voice carried the cold edge of power, the kind that made even the chandelier seem to dim. "I am Olivia's employer, and much more than that." A collective gasp rippled through the guests. Heads turned like dominoes falling, eyes bouncing between Olivia and Richard. Michael's face burned with confusion, his grip on Lily tightening as if protecting her from a truth too heavy for a child to hear. I saw Olivia's body trembling, her carefully constructed world collapsing brick by brick. She sank back on her knees, her voice breaking. "Please, not here, not tonight." But Richard ignored her plea. His gaze shifted to me, and for the first time that night, my lips curved into something close to understanding. He nodded at me respectfully, as though he knew, somehow, that I was the only one in that room strong enough to withstand what was about to be said. "Mrs. Hart," he said solemnly, "I apologize for barging into your family's gathering. But I've come because of your daughter-in-law. She hasn't been truthful with you or with your son. And tonight, you all deserve to know the truth." Michael's voice cracked, part fury, part desperation. "What truth? Olivia, what is going on?" Olivia broke then, sobs racking her chest. She reached for Michael, but he stepped back, still clutching Lily protectively. "Michael, please. I can explain, just not here, not like this." But Richard wasn't waiting. He placed a folder on the table beside my envelope, his movements precise and deliberate. "Your wife, Olivia, has been siphoning funds from the company accounts," he announced. "For months. Tens of thousands. And recently she tried to use your house, this very house, as collateral for a private loan. A loan she never intended to repay." The words hit like a hammer. Michael staggered back, nearly dropping Lily in shock. His eyes, wide and bloodshot, darted to Olivia. "Tell me he's lying. Tell me this isn't true." Olivia crumbled fully now, her sobs uncontrollable. I was desperate. I just wanted more for us, for Lily. Michael, I didn't mean for it to go this far. Please, believe me." But the guests were already whispering, their murmurs swelling into a tide of judgment. The perfect image Olivia had curated, the flawless wife, the elegant hostess, was unraveling in front of everyone. And the more she tried to defend herself, the more the room turned cold. Michael's face hardened. "You called my mother a burden, while you were the one risking everything. Stealing. Lying." His voice cracked into a roar. "Do you know what you've done to us?" Olivia reached for him again, but he pushed her hand away. The rejection struck her harder than any slap could. She collapsed into sobs, her body shaking on the polished wooden floor. I stood still, my old hands resting on the table where both envelopes lay. Mine, filled with proof of sacrifice and foresight, and Richard's, filled with proof of betrayal. Two truths side by side, like mirrors showing who we were and who we pretended to be. I looked at Olivia, broken, exposed, and though anger flared in me, I also felt something else. Pity. Because power without humility always ends like this. On your knees, begging forgiveness from those you thought weaker than you. But pity does not erase consequences. "Michael," I said softly, my voice steady, "you asked me why I stayed silent all these years. Tonight you have your answer. It wasn't just about protecting myself. It was about protecting you too. From truths you weren't ready to see." He looked at me, his eyes brimming with tears, and for the first time that night, I saw the little boy I once carried in my arms, the one who trusted me completely. He nodded slowly, his jaw tight, his heart breaking in silence. Olivia's sobs filled the hall, desperate, raw, echoing against walls that now seemed too large, too cold. She clutched the hem of my dress, tears soaking the fabric. "Eleanor, please, you can save me. Please don't let this destroy me." I looked down at her, the woman who had called me a burden, the woman who had tried to erase me. And in that moment, every eye in the room waited for my answer. Would I show her mercy? Or would I let the truth finish what it had started? And just as I opened my mouth, Richard leaned forward, his eyes sharp with a revelation even darker than the one he had already shared. "There's something else," he said, his voice low but cutting through the silence like a blade. "Something Olivia has hidden, even from me." The entire room turned to stone. My hand froze on the table. Michael's breath hitched. And Olivia, her face drained of blood, looked as if the ground itself had betrayed her. What secret was still waiting to tear the night apart? The room held its breath. Richard's words lingered like smoke, choking every corner of the hall. Olivia's trembling hands clutched my skirt tighter, her eyes wide with panic. She shook her head violently, as if trying to shake the truth itself loose from her body. "Don't," she whispered, her voice a hoarse plea. "Richard, please don't say it." But Richard didn't flinch. His jaw was locked, his eyes unforgiving. "You've lied enough, Olivia. It's time your husband and his mother know everything." Michael's voice thundered, breaking through the silence. "What is he talking about? Olivia, what have you done?" His arms tightened around Lily, as though he feared even his daughter might be ripped away by the storm. Olivia broke into sobs again, rocking back and forth on her knees. "Michael, I never wanted you to find out this way." Her words tangled with her tears, barely coherent. "I thought I could bury it. I thought it would never come back to haunt us." Richard pulled a photograph from the folder and slid it across the table. The image stopped Michael cold. He froze, his entire body stiffening as he stared at the glossy paper. Slowly, his shaking hands picked it up, his eyes scanning the picture. It was Olivia, standing arm in arm with Richard. Not as colleagues, not as acquaintances, but as lovers. Her head was tilted against his chest, her smile wide, her hand resting on his. Michael's face turned white, then red, then gray, the colors of betrayal staining him in seconds. His lips parted but no sound came out. He looked up at Olivia, his eyes wild with disbelief. "Tell me this isn't real. Tell me this is some kind of lie." Olivia reached for him, crawling across the polished floor. "It was before you, Michael. Years ago. Before I married you. I never told you because I thought it didn't matter anymore. But Richard, he never let it go. He's been using it against me. Richard cut her off, his voice like a whip. "Don't twist this, Olivia. This wasn't years ago. This was last year. 6 months after you called Eleanor a burden for the first time." The guests gasped again, the weight of the revelation cracking the air like thunder. Michael staggered backward, nearly dropping Lily as he collided with a chair. "Last year." His voice cracked, broken. "While I was working overtime to pay bills, while my mother was helping care for Lily. You were with him?" Olivia's sobs turned desperate. "Michael, please. I was lost, I was angry, I thought you didn't see me anymore. I made a mistake, one mistake. But it's over now." It meant nothing. But her words fell into the silence like stones sinking into water. No one believed her anymore. Not after the lies, not after the theft, not after the mask she had worn so proudly shattered before everyone's eyes. I felt my chest tighten, not from shock, because I had suspected deep down, but from sorrow. Sorrow for my son, whose heart was breaking in front of me. Sorrow for Lily, who clung to him with wide, frightened eyes, too young to understand but old enough to feel the rupture. Michael lowered Lily gently into the arms of a neighbor, then turned back to Olivia, his face hollow. You said my mother was a burden. But you've been the weight around my neck all along. The lies, the greed, the betrayal. You risked everything. And for what? For him. His voice cracked into a whisper. For this. Olivia crawled to him, clutching at his trousers, her voice hysterical. Because I was afraid. Afraid you'd choose her over me. Afraid she'd take you away from me. Afraid I'd always come second to your mother. Her confession rang out, raw and venomous, the truth beneath all her cruelty finally exposed. The room spun with whispers, with gasps, with judgment. But for me, time slowed. I saw the truth at last. Olivia had never hated me for what I did, but for what I represented. Security. Permanence. A love Michael could not be forced to sever. She saw me as competition, not family. And that envy had poisoned everything. I bent slowly, my knees aching, until I was eye level with her. Her mascara streaked down her cheeks, her lips trembling, her body shaking. She looked like a child caught stealing, desperate for mercy. Olivia, I said softly, though my voice carried the steel of a lifetime. You feared being second. But what you never understood is that love is not a contest. It grows when it's shared. You chose jealousy over gratitude, lies over honesty. And now? I gestured at the table, at the documents, at Richard, at the eyes of every guest. Now your choices are your chains. She sobbed harder, collapsing fully on the floor, her forehead pressing against the wood as if begging it to swallow her whole. Michael stood motionless, his hands clenched, his body trembling. Mom, he said at last, his voice breaking. What do I do? How do I even begin to pick up the pieces? I looked at him, my heart heavy but resolute. You begin, son, by choosing truth over lies. By remembering that the people who love you don't demand you sacrifice your soul to prove it. And you begin by protecting Lily, above all else. Richard cleared his throat, sliding another paper forward. There's more you need to see. The guests leaned forward, hungry for the next revelation. Michael stared at the folder, his breath shallow. Olivia's sobs grew frantic, her nails clawing at the floor. Because whatever was in that folder, it was worse than everything we had heard so far. And as I reached for the document, my fingers trembling over its edge, I realized this night was far from over. The greatest truth of all had yet to be revealed. My hand shook as I touched the edge of the folder. Not from fear, but from the weight of knowing that once I opened it, there would be no turning back. Michael stood rigid, his fists clenched, his chest heaving as if he were trying to keep himself from shattering into 1,000 pieces. Olivia sobbed into the polished wood floor, her cries now muffled, like a child who had finally realized there was no escape from punishment. Richard's eyes locked on mine. You should be the one to reveal it, Mrs. Hart. It will mean more coming from you. I frowned. Why me? Because, he said, his jaw tightening, you're the only one in this room who still has Michael's full trust. I slowly opened the folder. Inside were printed bank statements, loan applications, and, at the very top, a birth certificate. My eyes scanned it once, then twice, my heart slamming against my ribs. The name on it froze me where I stood. The child's name was Lily Hart. But under father's name, it did not say Michael Hart. It said Richard Monroe. A sharp, collective gasp shook the room. The chandelier above us trembled as if it too had been struck by the revelation. Michael stumbled backward, his face ghostly pale, his lips parting in disbelief. That's a lie, he rasped, his voice strangled. That's a forged document. This can't be real. Richard's voice was ice. It's real. I demanded the paternity test months ago when I began to suspect. Olivia refused to cooperate, but I had access. DNA doesn't lie. Lily is my daughter, not yours. The words ripped through the air, tearing apart the fragile hope that remained. Michael's knees buckled, and for a moment I thought he would collapse. The neighbor holding Lily pulled her closer, shielding her from the tension boiling in the room. Olivia lifted her head at last, her face streaked with tears, her lips trembling. "Michael, I never wanted you to know. I didn't plan it. I thought it would ruin us. I thought if I buried it deep enough." "Buried it?" Michael roared, his voice cracking like a whip. "You've been lying to me every single day. You let me raise her, love her, as my daughter while you knew." His voice broke, and he pressed a hand to his chest as though he could physically hold his heart together. "You've destroyed me, Olivia. Absolutely destroyed me." The guests sat frozen, their earlier whispers silenced by the enormity of the truth. No one dared move. No one dared breathe too loudly. I swallowed the lump in my throat and looked at Michael, my son who had just had his entire world ripped apart. "Michael," I said softly, "listen to me. Blood may write names on paper, but love writes names on hearts. Lily is yours in every way that matters. No man, no paper, can erase the nights you held her through fevers, the mornings you walked her to school, the way she calls you daddy without hesitation. Don't let this truth steal what's already yours." Tears streamed down his face as he turned to look at Lily, her innocent eyes wide with confusion. She had no idea what storm she was standing in the middle of. She only knew the man who held her when she was scared, the man whose voice was her safe place. Richard's voice cut through again, sharp, cold, merciless. "I intend to claim what is mine. I'll be filing for custody." The room erupted into chaos. Gasps, protests, cries. Olivia shrieked, crawling toward Richard, clawing at his leg. "No. No, you can't take her from me. You used me. You promised me it would never go this far." Richard looked down at her with disdain. "You made your bed, Olivia. Now lie in it." Michael turned to me then, his eyes bloodshot, his voice cracking with desperation. "Mom, what do I do? How do I fight this? How do I keep my daughter, from being ripped away from me?" I placed my hand firmly over his, the strength of 72 years surging through me. "You don't give up, Michael. Not now, not ever. He may have power, he may have money, but we have truth, love, and the law. And I promise you, I will stand with you every step of the way." The room fell quiet again, all eyes on us. Michael nodded, his jaw tightening as though he were gathering every ounce of strength left inside him. But Olivia let out a sudden, piercing cry. "No. You don't understand." Her body shook violently, her words spilling out like broken glass. "There's something else. Something I never told anyone. Not Richard, not Michael, not anyone." The room froze once more. Even Richard's stern expression faltered for the first time. "What else, Olivia?" I asked, my voice calm but sharp enough to cut. Her eyes darted wildly between us, her chest heaving, her lips trembling. "If I tell you, it will change everything. Everything you think you know about me, about Lily, about all of this." She collapsed again, her voice breaking into a whisper. "And once you hear it, you'll never look at me the same way again." The entire house seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the next bomb to fall. Olivia's words hung in the air like smoke from a fire no one could see, but everyone could smell. Her body shook as though every bone wanted to betray her secret before her lips did. She gripped the edge of the table, knuckles white, mascara streaking her face. Michael stood rigid, arms trembling at his sides. "Say it," he demanded, his voice low, dangerous. "After everything, after the lies, the betrayal, the theft, you don't get to stall. Say it." Her eyes darted between him, Richard, and me. Then she lowered her gaze, ashamed, broken. "Lily, she isn't Richard's either." The room erupted in gasps. Even Richard staggered back, his jaw clenching as if she'd just slapped him. Michael's face twisted in confusion. "What do you mean? You just let us believe." "I lied to him," Olivia blurted, clutching her chest as if confessing would stop her heart from bursting. "When Richard found out about the affair, he suspected Lily. He pushed for a test and I panicked. I doctored the results. I made him believe Lily was his so he wouldn't ruin me. He never knew the truth. None of you did." Richard's fists curled, his face darkening like a storm cloud. You forged results. You used me. Do you have any idea what I've risked on your lies? Olivia's sobs deepened. I had to. Because the truth was worse. The truth would have destroyed me. She buried her face in her hands. The truth is, I don't know who Lily's father is. The silence that followed was deafening. Every guest froze in their seats, their eyes wide, their breaths shallow. Even the chandelier above seemed to dim, as if unwilling to shine light on such ruin. Michael's face went pale. He looked as though the ground beneath him had been stolen, leaving him suspended in nothingness. You don't know. His voice cracked. So you let me raise her, you let him think she was his, all the while you weren't even sure? Olivia's cries turned raw, desperate, animal-like. I was scared, Michael. Scared you'd leave me, scared Richard would expose me. I thought if I could keep the lie alive long enough, it wouldn't matter. But it does. See it now. It matters more than anything. The betrayal cut so deep I thought my son might collapse right there. His fists trembled, his jaw locked, his tears spilling unchecked. I wanted to step in, to gather him like I had when he was a boy who scraped his knees on gravel roads. But he wasn't that boy anymore. He was a man, a father, broken by the woman he trusted most. Richard's voice was venom. You played me for a fool. You made me believe a child was mine. You dragged my name into your mess. Do you know what that means for me if this gets out? Do you? Olivia lifted her face, streaked and swollen. Please, don't take Lily from me. She's all I have. I felt fury rise in my chest. All you have. My voice was steady, though it shook the room. You had a husband who loved you, a daughter who adored you, a roof over your head built on sacrifice you never made. And still it wasn't enough. You gambled with everything, and now you want pity. Her sobs quieted. She sat frozen, her mouth open but no words left. Michael finally turned to me, his face hollow, his voice a whisper. Mom, what do I do? How do I move forward from this? How do I protect Lily when her own mother has torn the ground out from under her? I placed a trembling hand on his shoulder. You move forward with the truth, son. No matter how ugly, no matter how painful. Lies rot families from the inside out. But truth, even broken truth, can still be the foundation for healing. Richard exhaled sharply, straightening his tie. Then I'm done here. She's ruined herself without my help. He gathered his folder, his eyes burning holes through Olivia. Consider yourself finished at the company, Olivia. By tomorrow, the board will know everything. He glanced at Michael, then at me. I pity you both. But I don't envy you. He strode out, the door slamming shut behind him. The guests sat stunned, whispering nervously. Some avoided Olivia's gaze. Others looked at Michael with pity. The night that was meant to celebrate Lily's innocence had turned into a courtroom of shame. Olivia crawled to Michael once more, clutching his feet, her voice hoarse. Don't leave me. Please. Don't take Lily from me. I'll change, I'll do anything, just don't end this. Michael stared down at her, his face unreadable, his breath shallow. Then slowly, he reached down and pried her hands off his legs, one finger at a time. You ended this, Olivia, he said, his voice low, heavy. Not me. Not Richard. You. And with that, he turned his back on her, walking toward Lily, toward the only thing in the room that still carried innocence. I watched Olivia collapse again, her wails echoing through the hall. She had fallen to her knees once before tonight, when I saved Lily's life. But now she fell for herself. And this time there was no one to pull her back up. Still, something in her broken cries told me the worst revelation was yet to come. Because people don't confess in layers unless the deepest secret is still buried at the bottom. The sound of Olivia's sobs filled the hall, raw and jagged, like glass scraping against stone. Guests shifted uncomfortably, some excusing themselves, others staying as if they couldn't tear themselves away from the spectacle unraveling before them. Michael sat on the edge of a chair now, Lily in his arms, rocking her gently. His face hollow but steady, like a man trying to anchor himself in a storm. I stood, my knees aching, and looked down at Olivia, who lay curled on the floor. She wasn't just crying anymore, she was unraveling. Her body trembled, her voice cracked with words that came out half-formed, half-drowned in grief. Then, between sobs, she muttered something that froze me. I didn't mean for it to happen. I didn't mean for her to find out. The guests fell silent again. Michael stiffened. His head snapped toward her. Find out? Ooh. What are you talking about? Olivia's hands covered her face, as though hiding from her own words. But once they'd slipped out, she couldn't bury them again. Slowly, she lifted her tear-streaked face. Your sister, Michael. Anna. A collective gasp swept through the room. My stomach turned cold. Anna, my daughter Michael's older sister, gone these last 10 years under circumstances that had always felt wrong. She had died in what the police had called an accidental overdose. But Anna had never been reckless, never the type to throw her life away. That doubt had lived in me like a shadow ever since. Michael's eyes widened, blood rushing from his face. What about Anna? His voice was a trembling whisper, a demand strangled by dread. Olivia let out a broken wail. She knew. She found out about me and Richard years ago. She threatened to tell you. She said she wouldn't let me ruin this family. I begged her to keep quiet, but she wouldn't. She said she'd tell you everything. Olivia's body shook harder, her nails scratching against the floor. That night when she died, I was with her. She was furious, screaming at me. I tried to calm her down, I tried to take the pills from her hand. But she was so angry she shoved me, I shoved her back. The room gasped as one. My knees nearly buckled. Michael's face contorted, his whole body trembling. You were there. You never said you were there. Olivia's voice collapsed into a whisper. I didn't mean for her to die. I didn't put the pills in her hand. But I didn't stop her. I let her go. Because I was too afraid of what the truth would do to me. The room reeled, the guests horrified, some covering their mouths, others standing, unsure whether to stay or flee. I felt something inside me break. All these years I had carried the weight of not knowing how my daughter's light had been extinguished. And now here was the truth. Not murder, not innocence, but cowardice. Olivia had stood by and watched my Anna slip away, all to protect herself. Michael dropped his face into his hands, sobbing like I hadn't heard since he was a child. The kind of cry that tears the soul raw. Lily whimpered in his lap, sensing the violence of grief but too young to name it. I bent, slowly, painfully, until I was eye level with Olivia once again. My voice trembled, but it carried the fury of a mother's love sharpened into steel. You let my daughter die to protect your lies. You let me bury her without truth. You stole 10 years of peace from me. Olivia's head shook violently, tears spraying. I swear I didn't kill her. I swear. I was scared. I thought if I told anyone they'd think I pushed her. They'd think it was my fault. Michael's roar shook the walls. It is your fault. He shot up to his feet, his voice cracking with anguish. You may not have given her the pills, but you let her die. You stood there and let my sister slip away. Olivia screamed, her body convulsing with sobs. She collapsed fully onto her stomach, pounding the floor with her fists, broken beyond pride, beyond reason. The guests were no longer whispering. Some openly wept, others backed away in horror. This was no longer a family scandal. It was a tragedy laid bare, a wound that bled into every corner of the room. I reached for Michael's hand, though my own was trembling. Son, I whispered, my own tears falling freely now. We cannot undo what she's done, but we can choose what comes next. For Anna's memory. For Lily's future. We can't let this cycle of lies and fear steal any more of us. Michael nodded weakly, his face streaked with tears. He pulled Lily closer, as though she were the only thing tethering him to life. And then, for the first time all night, Olivia went silent. Her body shook, her breath came ragged, but her eyes fixed on me with a strange, desperate intensity. "There's one more thing," she whispered, her voice almost too soft to hear. "Something even Anna never knew. Something that could destroy all of us if it comes out." The entire room froze, the weight of her words pressing down like a storm cloud ready to burst. Michael's voice cracked, half a plea, half a demand. What more could there possibly be? Olivia closed her eyes, a single tear sliding down her cheek. The night Anna died, she wasn't the only one in danger. The room went cold. My breath caught, because the way she said it told me that Anna's death wasn't the end of that story. Only the beginning. The silence after Olivia's words was suffocating. Every guest who remained clutched their seat, too afraid to move, too shaken to speak. Michael stared at her, trembling, his chest rising and falling like a man standing on the edge of collapse. I tightened my grip on his hand, afraid he might unravel completely. Olivia's lips quivered, her eyes darting around the room, as if searching for an escape that didn't exist. "The night Anna died," she whispered, her voice cracking, "I wasn't just with her. Someone else was there. Someone none of you would ever expect." Michael's voice thundered across the room. "Who?" Olivia flinched. She buried her face in her hands, her body rocking as she sobbed. "Your father." The air was ripped out of the room. My heart stopped cold. Even the chandelier above seemed to sway as though recoiling from the revelation. Michael's mouth fell open, his voice a strangled rasp. "Dad, that's impossible. He was out of town on business that night." "No!" Olivia's scream cut him off. She looked up, her face wild, eyes bloodshot, desperate. "He told everyone he was, but he wasn't. He was there. He came into Anna's apartment while we were fighting. He tried to calm her down too. He saw her swallow the pills." My knees weakened, and I gripped the table for support. My husband, gone these past 8 years, had always sworn he'd been away on a trip the night Anna died. He had looked me in the eye at her funeral, tears streaming down his face, and told me he wished he'd been there to save her. But if what Olivia said was true, he had lied to me too. Michael staggered back, clutching his head. "No, no, I don't believe you. He would have told us. He would have done something." Olivia shook her head violently. "He didn't because Anna begged him not to. She didn't want to be taken to the hospital. She said she was tired of the lies, tired of carrying everyone else's secrets. She wanted to end it." He froze. He begged her, but he didn't stop her. And when she collapsed, he panicked. He left. He told me never to speak of it. Said it would destroy your mother if she knew he had been there and done nothing. Tears blurred my vision, my body trembling. My husband. The man I had trusted with my life. The man who had held me through the darkest nights. He had been there. And he had left our daughter to die. The betrayal sliced through me so deep I thought I might not survive it. Michael let out a broken roar, slamming his fist against the wall. "So all these years, we blamed Anna. We thought she gave up, when really, you and Dad stood there and let her die?" His voice cracked, tears streaming down his face. "How could you? How could you?" Olivia collapsed again, clutching at the floor. "I was young, I was selfish, I was terrified. But your father, he was supposed to be the strong one. He told me it was better this way. He made me swear to keep it buried. I carried that weight for years, Michael. Do you think I don't suffer every single day?" Her words pierced me like a dagger. Because as much as I despised her lies, there was truth in her voice now. And that truth tore my world apart. Guests shifted uneasily, some openly weeping. One neighbor whispered, "My God, this family," before falling silent. I steadied myself, drawing every ounce of strength left in me. "So both of you let her go," I said, my voice trembling but firm. "You and my husband. You stole her choice to fight. You stole my chance to save her. And you buried me in lies so deep I nearly drowned in them." Michael turned to me, his eyes desperate. Mom, what do we do with this? How do we carry this now? I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to remain steady. We don't carry it, son. We drag it into the light where it belongs. Secrets kill families. Lies kill love. But truth, even when it burns, is the only way forward. Olivia sobbed harder, curling into herself like a child. Please. Please don't destroy me with this. Don't destroy your father's memory. Let Anna rest. Michael's face hardened. His tears replaced with something fiercer, resolve. Anna will rest when the truth is spoken, not before. I placed my hand gently on Lily's head, who clung to her father silently, her little eyes wide with confusion. She didn't understand, but one day she would. And when that day came, she deserved to know the truth, not the lies. I straightened slowly, though my body ached, and looked around at the room of witnesses. You have all heard it now. The truth that was hidden for 10 years. The truth that poisoned this family. Ends here. No more lies. No more secrets. The guests nodded solemnly, some whispering prayers, others wiping tears. But then Olivia lifted her face again, her eyes wild, her voice hoarse. You don't understand. This is bigger than Anna. Bigger than me. If you expose the truth, you'll uncover something else. Something that could destroy everything you think you know about this family. Her voice cracked, her body trembling. Because Anna's death wasn't just about her. She knew something. Something about all of us. The room froze again. My heart pounded in my chest. Michael's eyes went wide. What did Anna know? He demanded, his voice sharp as a blade. Olivia's lips trembled. She whispered the words so softly, I almost thought I had imagined them. She knew who you really are. The room erupted in shock. My knees buckled, my breath caught, and Michael's face drained of color. What could she possibly mean? Who was my son, really? The words left Olivia's lips like a curse. She knew who you really are. Michael froze, his arms tightening protectively around Lily. His eyes burning holes into Olivia. What the hell does that mean? His voice shook with rage, but underneath it was a note of fear. Olivia dragged in a ragged breath, her whole body trembling. Her hands clawed at the floor as though she could dig herself into the earth. I never wanted to tell you. Your father swore it would never come out. But Anna, she found the papers. She confronted me the night she died. That's why she was so furious. That's why she couldn't take it anymore. I felt my chest seize, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. What papers, Olivia? What did Anna find? Olivia's eyes locked on mine, wild and broken. Michael isn't your husband's son. The room erupted in gasps, some guests crying out loud, others clutching their mouths in disbelief. Michael staggered back as if struck, his face pale as chalk. What? His voice was barely a whisper. Olivia pressed her palms into the floor, sobbing harder. You raised him as your own, but he wasn't. Your husband knew. He knew from the beginning. He stayed silent to protect you, Eleanor. He pretended for your sake. Anna found out years later. She found the adoption papers hidden in the safe. The room spun. I gripped the table with both hands, my knees trembling. My mind reeled back through decades. Michael's birth, the way my husband insisted he'd handle the paperwork, the way he discouraged me from asking too many questions. Could it be true? Had my own son, my flesh and blood, or what I thought was my flesh and blood, been a lie? Michael shook his head violently, tears spilling down his cheeks. No, that's impossible. You're lying again. I look like Mom. Everyone's always said I look like her. How can you stand there and say I'm not her son? Olivia's voice cracked into a scream. Because I've seen the papers. You were adopted, Michael. Your mother never knew because your father never told her. He made it look like she had given birth. He buried the truth to keep his family perfect. Gasps filled the room again. Guests shifted uncomfortably, whispering among themselves. Could barely breathe. Adopted. My voice cracked, weak, unfamiliar to my own ears. That can't be. I carried him. I remember the pain. The delivery. Olivia shook her head frantically. No, you were sedated. You lost consciousness. They told you the baby survived, but the truth is, your baby didn't. Your husband arranged everything before you woke. He brought Michael to you and told you he was yours. Michael dropped into a chair, his whole body shaking. His hands clutched his head as sobs tore through him. So all this time, my whole life has been a lie. Tears blurred my eyes. My hands trembled as I reached for him, desperate to hold him, to remind him that no matter what papers said, no matter what lies had been told, he was mine. Michael, I whispered, my voice shaking. You are my son. Blood or not, I raised you, I loved you, I carried you in my heart before you even knew my name. Nothing changes that. Nothing. But my words, though true, couldn't patch the hole that had just been ripped through his soul. Olivia sobbed into her hands, her body rocking. Anna found out. She hated me for keeping it from you. She said you deserved to know the truth. She threatened to expose it to everyone. That night she screamed it at me. That you weren't really your mother's son, that she'd tell you before morning. She wanted to free you from the lie. And I. Her body convulsed with sobs. I begged her to stay silent. I begged her not to destroy your mother's heart. But she wouldn't stop. The room was heavy with horror. Guests shifted, some whispering, others wiping their eyes. The truth had not just fractured our family, it had detonated it. Michael looked up at me, his eyes red and swollen, his face crumpled. Mom, is it true? Did you really not know? My lips trembled. I shook my head, tears streaming down my face. I swear to you, Michael, I didn't. I never knew. To me, you are mine. You always have been. Nothing they say will change that. But his face told me it wasn't enough. The betrayal of a lifetime cannot be soothed with a single truth, even if it's spoken from love. Olivia let out another wail, her voice raw. There's more. There's always more. Because the man who arranged it, the one who brought Michael into this family, he didn't just do it for love. He did it because of who Michael's real parents were. The room froze again. Every whisper died. Every guest sat paralyzed. Michael's voice cracked. Who are they? Olivia looked up, her face pale, her eyes burning with the weight of her secret. Your real father wasn't just anyone. He was a man with power. Dangerous power. And if his name comes out, she swallowed hard, her voice breaking, it could destroy everything we are. The room erupted into chaos, voices clashing, gasps breaking, people rising to their feet. My heart slammed in my chest. Michael stared at Olivia, his whole world crumbling around him. And in that storm of whispers and terror, I realized, the final truth had yet to fall. The name of Michael's real father was still locked inside Olivia's trembling mouth. The hall had turned into a tomb of whispers. Every guest leaned forward, eyes glued to Olivia, breaths caught in their throats. Michael sat like stone, his face hollow, his arms limp at his sides. Lily clung to him, too young to understand the words but old enough to feel the tension that shook the air. I steadied myself against the table, my fingers trembling. Say his name, Olivia, I demanded, my voice sharper than it had been all night. If you've torn open this wound, then finish it. Say it. Olivia's chest heaved. Her lips quivered. She looked at me, then at Michael, then down at the floor as though the truth itself scorched her. I swore I never would, she whispered. Your father made me promise. Anna nearly exposed it, and that's why she hated me to the end. But if I keep this any longer, it will destroy me anyway. Michael's voice was raw, broken. Tell me who I am. Olivia's eyes lifted at last, and her voice cracked. Your real father was Senator Charles Whitmore. The gasp that followed was thunderous. People clutched their mouths, some crying out loud, others shaking their heads in disbelief. The Whitmore family was one of the wealthiest and most powerful in the state, known for their influence, feared for their ruthlessness. Michael's face drained of blood. "The senator," he rasped. "That man. That corrupt monster who destroyed lives for his ambition. You're saying he's my father?" Olivia nodded miserably, her tears falling like rain. "Yes. He had an affair with your birth mother. She was a young nurse, poor, powerless. When she became pregnant, he paid to make it disappear. But your father, Eleanor's husband, stepped in. He took you, raised you as his own to protect Eleanor. He thought it was an act of mercy, but it was a lie built on sand." The room erupted with horrified whispers. Senator Whitmore's name was one that carried weight in every household, one associated with scandal, manipulation, and untouchable power. And now that name was tied to my son. Michael clutched his head, his sobs tearing through the silence. "So I've lived my whole life a lie. My sister died because of it. My wife betrayed me because of it. And now you tell me I'm the son of a man I despise." I moved to him, falling to my knees despite the pain screaming in my joints. I cupped his face in my hands, forcing him to look at me. "Listen to me, Michael. I don't care what blood runs in your veins. You are my son. The boy I rocked to sleep, the man I prayed for every night, the father I see holding his child with love. That senator may have given you life, but he didn't give you a heart. He didn't make you the man you are. I did. And Anna did. And you did." Michael's tears spilled harder as he collapsed into my arms, shaking like the child he once was. I held him tight, my own tears soaking his shoulder. Olivia's voice cracked again, trembling through her sobs. "I kept it buried because I knew if it came out, the Whitmores would never let you go. They'd try to claim you, use you, drag you into their world of corruption. I wanted to protect you from them, even if I failed you in every other way." Michael pulled back from me. His face hardened now with something new, resolve. He looked at Olivia, his voice low but deadly. "You didn't protect me. You poisoned me. Every lie, every secret, every betrayal was for yourself. You could have told me the truth years ago. You could have trusted me. But you didn't." Olivia crawled toward him, her body shaking, her eyes desperate. "Michael, please don't leave me. I've lost everything tonight. Don't take Lily from me too. Please." Michael's jaw clenched. His voice was steady, firm, unshakable. "You already lost me, Olivia. The night you called my mother a burden was the night you showed me who you are. And tonight the world saw it too." He stood, Lily still in his arms, and turned toward me. "Mom, come with me. We're leaving this house tonight. Tomorrow, I'll speak to a lawyer. Lily's future is with us, not with her." I nodded, my heart heavy but resolute. Together we walked toward the door, past the guests who parted like waves, their eyes wide, their whispers muted. Olivia's cries followed us, echoing down the hall, raw and pitiful, but I did not look back. Because some burdens you carry for love, others you put down for survival. And as the door closed behind us, I knew one thing. The truth had finally broken us open, but it had also set us free. For Anna. For Lily. For the family that remained. And Olivia, left on her knees in the ruins she created, would never rise the same again.